Welcome, podcast community. I'm Podcast Pete, founder of High Performance Podcast Mastery, and we have two baseball guys on here. I'm going to have to sit back and just listen because my contribution to baseball is very little. So we'll go with the guy right next to me because people have heard of Jim. People are starting to hear of Larry Howser because he was performing at our first comedy event that we did for seniors. So that'll be off to a different. That's why we named him the what do we call it? Entertainmenter. So that's a new word that we have cloned.
So you heard it. You want to find out what that is?
Yes, you have heard it first on the Baseball Guys podcast.
Looking it up now.
So Larry, would you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and who you serve?
I am Lawrence Howser. I'm an entertainmenter. Formerly at Delta Airlines. Now I just started doing stand-up in the last couple of weeks. And with Pete's help, we hope to launch that in a big way among the senior community. We're looking for, a chance to bring a smile, a little bit of laughter and entertainment to the senior community. So, yeah, and talk some baseball too.
Yeah, that's I before we got on the air, I was sharing with my baseball guys. The ladies love baseball here at Overture, and I think
beat them off with a bat. Right?
It's probably across the senior community because we've had a rich history with the Braves. I mean, after '91, we have, and so there's a lot of people have been following them play by play. So, Jim, I know you're kind of a bring us down from Jersey baseball fan, but you've been on the Commercial Connector podcast. You're the host of that, but let us know a little bit your role here as a baseball guy.
Well, I don't really know since we're making it up as we go along, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in meeting Larry recently, and was pretty awesome that my wife and I were at his initial comedy show, which he was very good, by the way.
I agree.
I don't know that I can hold a candle to a guy that has baseball in his blood, and his brother was a major league player and manager who as soon as Pete said Howser, I said, really? I knew exactly who your brother was. Not being a Yankee fan, I'm a Mets fan. But you want to call me the baseball guy. I do know quite a bit about it, but from a fan perspective, I wasn't fortunate enough to sit in the dugout next to Reggie Jackson. Would have been pretty cool to do. But yeah, I love baseball. It's always been my game. It's kind of like, I think it's the thinking man's game. It's probably why the board game I love the most is chess. I love to play chess. I think you really have to think there. Not that you don't in the other sports, but baseball is just one of those things. So how it got started, really being one of 6 kids and 3 other brothers, when baseball was on TV, back when you had rabbit ears and black and white,
one game a week, right?
And yeah, you're right. And you had like 11 stations, and the picture would go, and somebody would have to stand behind the TV and hold the horizontal hold. So when my dad was watching the Mets on WOR in New York, if we were causing trouble in the house as little kids, our punishment would be to sit down, shut up, and watch the game. That's how I started watching baseball.
Wow, as punishment.
Wow. Yeah, it was. Yeah, my dad was
nowadays. That would be soccer.
Yeah, thank you. Or golf for me. Sorry, Pete. Where was I going on that one? So yeah, so we would sit there and watch, and eventually I just got to love the game. And it was just the neatest thing. And like you said, you didn't get to watch it that often. Now with cable, MLB Network, you can watch any game anytime. So that's really how I started watching baseball. And
you had us beat. I had to get up on the roof of our house, which I love, shimmying up and hold like an 800-pound antenna and turn it towards Miami to pick up CBS. We got like 4 stations, and it was held in by like one screw. you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, right there, hold it. And with Jackie Gleason came on, I was up on the roof for like an hour. I never did see Gleason until years later. Yeah.
We are really showing our age here, aren't we?
I know. That's okay.
But
You
those
know,
those
you
were
do
great
have
days.
a few more options. I mean, that's
Yeah.
you know, you think of how simple it was that you didn't have that many options. One game a week. Hey, you didn't have a choice.
And it was Yankees in the 60s when CBS owned them.
Well, we actually got more games than that, but it was on.
Right.
You just had the Mets were on Channel 9, the Yankees were on Channel 11, and if you got a game in the week, that's great. My dad was from Brooklyn. Well, he was born in the Bronx, but my parents are from Brooklyn, so he was a big Brooklyn Dodger fan.
Oh.
So, like so many others, they had their hearts broken when the Dodgers and the Giants took off. So, a little thing that a lot of people don't know is that's where the Mets colors come from.
Right.
So, Larry, I'm sure you know that, but the Mets, orange and black and whatnot and blue come from the Dodgers and the Giants.
I read that in a book once. It was one of the. I think I read like 3 books in my life, but that was one of them. Yeah, but that was heartbreaking for those people. You can't.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No.
Sure.
It's kind of like the Colts moving out in the middle of the night and going to Indianapolis.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, that's those kind of
sneaking off.
Those connections to the community. When they leave, it's like your heart gets ripped out. Because you're watching them, you have that connection to them, and so that's tough.
Yeah.
So they sang. They took my heart to San Francisco.
Dude, I think we need to have a little bit of singing on our show.
Not by me.
That was the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
But here's what we want to tell our viewers, because, I think when I hear and I talk to my residents and they share the connection with the Braves, they share baseball, it seems like there's not a sport that seniors connect with better than baseball. I mean, football, forget it. Basketball, forget it. So it is baseball. So what we wanted to bring to our community is seniors that talk baseball. So that's why the Baseball Guys was created, to really talk about the past, give you a little insight into what's happening. Jim will be maybe the Mets perspective, and Larry's going to give a little bit of Northeast and then the Braves connection. So we want you to share this with people that enjoy talking baseball and hearing, because we have plenty of opportunity for you to put questions out there. So if you have good baseball questions and stories, share them on it. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of like we had great dialogue before we went on the air. So I'm almost like I should have pushed the button before we went on. So Larry, since you're in the studio, I'm going to have you go first. Tell our viewers, like, give them a perspective of when Jim said you've got baseball in your blood. Give our viewers an idea of the framing of your baseball, past and why you love baseball so much.
Well, when I was 7 years old, my brother broke into the big leagues with the Kansas City Athletics, 1961. And, I already was playing a little, around the house ball. But, boy, once something like that happens, and I would just be outside all the time with a glove and a rubber ball bouncing up against the house, the steps in the front, whatever. It was just something we did, as you get a little older, 8, 9, 10 years old, there were just pickup games in the neighborhood. You've seen the movie Sandlot. We didn't have Sandlot. We played out in the street, but you'd play out there till your mom called you home for dinner, all day, every day. And when a cold spell hit in South Florida and it got down to like 55, we thought it was freezing, then we played a little football. But yeah, just being, and I only saw my brother in the wintertime after that during the off season. But, he was a great guy, just so funny, because that's the one thing about baseball. And this, Jim, of all the sports, as far as being just funny, smart, witty, quick, baseball has got it hands down. We talked a little about Yogi Berra before we started, but they're just. My brother was hysterical. You know, everything. He never called me Larry. We went up to DC in '62, I guess it was. Met up there. Went to some games in Baltimore and Washington, and we were touring all the monuments in Washington. It got to be noon, and I kept asking, "When are we going to have lunch? What time's lunch?" And I was 8 years old. From then on, I was lunch. He never called me Larry. It was lunch pail, Larry Lunchenheimer Schmidt. I mean, but my brother, everybody had to have a nickname. You may know that he gave Hawk Harrelson his nickname in the minor leagues. Harrelson was going through a slump, and my brother, there was a cartoon character at the time named Henrietta Hawk, and my brother started calling Henrietta Hawk. And finally, Harrelson said, "Dick, you got to knock that off. That's going to stick." He said, "I'll tell you what, we got a doubleheader. If you get 4 hits in the doubleheader, I'll drop it." And Harrelson got like 5 hits in 2 games. And my brother said, "I'm dropping the Henrietta, but you're Hawk," because he had the nose.
Yeah.
So he was Hawk Harrelson after that. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of like a virus. Once it's in your blood, it's hard to shake it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
What would you
Go
say?
ahead.
Like, how did your baseball interest start? Were you just was that part of like one of the sports that you played on a regular basis, and that developed a interest in baseball?
Yeah, well, again, my dad would kind of punish my brothers and I by making us sit still in front of the TV when he was watching the Mets, and he was an old Dodgers fan that adopted the Mets, and we would sit there and watch it, and yeah, and like Larry said, back in those days, you didn't worry like you worry today about your kids. When you look out the window and you can't see your kid, you worry where your kid is. But those days we just go out, especially in the summer. You're gone. As long as you made it home by 5 o'clock, that's when dinner's on the table. Nobody worried about you. And so quick little story.
You rode your bike without a helmet and everything, right?
That's right. Yeah. No knee pads. Right. Exactly. And we even drank out of a garden hose. Right. So we used to play ball in the field, down the street a little bit, and it was behind, and you're going to know this name, Larry, in a second, behind the house, Mr. Petroselli's house.
Oh yeah,
and Rico's brother.
Okay.
Rico's brother, and so Mr. Petroselli, that's all I knew him by, is Mr. Petroselli. He used to come out and give us boys little tips and all that stuff. And one time Rico was there. Oh, wow. I don't remember what time of the year it was. I don't remember if they had an off day. He was visiting. I don't know, but we met Rico. And so the Red Sox all became, as an impressionable young kid, my American League team. So I was sort of conflicted in '86, but not really, because you're a Mets fan. But, back in those days, you talk about the hijinks and whatnot. You remember Bobby Valentine getting thrown out of the game and putting the nose and glasses on and coming back in the dugout, right? And how about around the '86 Mets with the hot feet? They'd be doing that to guys.
Blowing up the bubble gum and putting it on guys' hats, and they didn't know it.
And they'd stick it to the back heel of go under the bench, put it to the back heel of their foot until the flames, they finally felt the flame burning, and they'd be dancing around the dugout. Baseball's known for that kind of stuff, but I got to say before, so I don't forget this. Mm-hmm. Living here in the Atlanta area for almost 30 years, I have a very healthy respect for the Atlanta Braves. I got to tell you, I wish the Mets would run as well as them, because they've got the best GM in baseball. I was saying this to you guys before we got on the air. When Greg Maddux was here in the '90s and pitching, I used to get my oldest daughter, Heather, who's a huge Braves fan. But she wasn't then, but I would bring her in when Maddux was pitching. I'd say, "Watch this guy. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's awesome. Watch the way this guy pitches." It was just such a treat to watch how he pitched. Anybody can throw if you can throw hard, but this guy could pitch.
Right. A lot of that has to do with the organization wise. You can go back to the days when Bobby Cox was the GM, because what they do now, and it took major league teams a long time to figure this out. You teach it in A ball the same way as in AA and AAA. So, because you used to have one coach telling you one thing in A ball, you move up to double. No, don't do it that way. Here's the way you cut the bag or whatever. They started doing it the same way at every level, and it really showed. During that time span and the starting at
Yeah.
about 1.
Yeah.
I think Bobby probably would have stayed at GM. I hope someday he's able to see these great guy, Bobby Cox. I mean, just a wonderful man. He was one of the pallbearers at my brother's funeral.
Mm.
Just super guy. But yeah, I don't think he at first wanted to go back in the dugout. He wanted to stay at GM, but they said, we need you down there. And, like they said, the rest is history.
I met him one time briefly. I was kind of starstruck, said hello. He was very gracious, shook my hand, smiled. We talked for maybe 10 seconds. Right. Almost as bad as when I met Henry Aaron.
Yeah.
Almost. I was getting on an elevator at the old Fulton County Stadium. I had season tickets after we moved here, and I would give them away to customers. And I was standing there waiting for the door to open, and it opens, and there's Henry Aaron.
Yeah.
I was like, hamada, 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 hamada. I just kind of froze, and all I could manage was a nod, and he nodded back and walked away.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I think prefer that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
another just a great human being.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this, since we're talking baseball, which I could do that for a long time. Larry, from your perspective, what do you attribute the rash of injuries we're having right now in baseball?
I think it's a number of things. We go back to the Tommy Johns, of course, and I go to what John Smoltz said about, a lot of people don't realize it's not the action of throwing where guys get injured. It's the stopping of the arm. You're making this violent movement, and then all of a sudden it stops. The other thing Smoltz says is that he likes his pitchers to be from the north, where they're not throwing all year round. They're playing basketball or whatever. He likes his hitters from California, Texas, and Florida, where it's warm. Yeah, you can hit all year, but you need some time off growing up as a kid, just throwing all the time. I wanted to ask you from a fan's, and I'm a fan, obviously, but what you thought about the rule changes. I thought they worked out pretty well. I was totally against them. And by the way, maybe people don't know this, but there were 3 votes for all the rule changes. There was like the owners, maybe in the commissioner's office, and then the Players Association. Players Association voted against every rule change, and I applaud them for that, because I don't like changing stuff. The only major game that didn't have a clock, now you got one. And then why drop it from 20 seconds to 18 the next year? What is it, 2 seconds? Was when when you're doing things that you're not used to, and none of those pitchers were ever used to being rushed. Some guys work fast, some guys work deliberately, but there's guys, Verlander and these guys saying that's what's doing it. The pitch clock, I think.
Yeah.
And when we were growing up, 60s, 70s, even, it was mid to late 70s before baseball players really started working out with weights. You remember how thin everybody was?
Yeah.
All those guys.
Yeah.
And it's great to be physically fit and hit the ball, 440 feet, but there weren't, guys didn't go on the DL like this.
Not like this. No, I think there's not one thing. You remember Steve Traxel used to be called the human rain delay because he took so long in between pitches, right? And I kind of understand that they wanted to speed the game up a little bit, right, by these rule changes, but I don't like it when you mess with the game. And I think that some of your stats end up becoming, I don't know.
You can throw like stolen bases out the window. I mean, when you make the bases bigger,
that's right.
You can only throw over twice. I know they had to do something.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not a fan of.
Ricky Henderson.
They work better than I thought they would.
Yeah, Ricky Henderson would steal 100 bases the way it was.
Right.
I mean, he didn't need bigger bases, didn't need a limit to how many times you could throw over. But you know what is the one I hate, the new rule that I hate the most by far is the runner on second base in extra innings.
Yeah. The
That
man
is
for the man.
absurd. Don't
Yeah.
like it at all.
Well, why not even just play the 10th inning, straight up, and then go to it in the 11th?
Maybe.
Because, you end up with a 2-2 game. You're tied. The game ends up 5-5 because one team will score a run, the other team scores a run.
Yeah.
So, nothing's perfect, but I just don't like. I'm like you. I don't like them messing with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Old guys.
Yeah. I don't like messing with the rules. I think the pitch clock's okay, but I'll defer to those guys who are smarter than I am on that, like the Verlanders and all. And if they think that's contributing to some of these injuries, it probably is. But we're getting too many injuries.
When you're doing something you're not used to, like me, when I'm talking to a young lady, maybe let's put it up, you're not good at it. And that's the same with bunting. Guys used to bunt for base hit. You go into the bottom of the 9th tie game, you need the leadoff hitter on, the third baseman's playing way off the line. It doesn't even have to be a good bunt. Very few guys would do that because they don't practice it. And it's hard. Bunting isn't that hard, but bunting big league pitching, if you don't practice it, is practically impossible.
Yeah, like where'd the squeeze bunt go?
Oh, forget that. I don't even know if I'd use that now because, you got guys who can do it. But that's a great play, the squeeze, the delayed squeeze.
See, I didn't like, look, in the 90s, and I think Major League Baseball is complicit with the whole steroid thing.
Right.
Because you remember one of the biggest slogans back then, people would hold it up in the signs up in the stands when Sosa and McGuire and Bonds were crushing home runs at a prodigious rate. Signs were held up, said chicks love the long ball. Right. Major League Baseball promoted that. They liked what was going on, right?
Yeah.
So, I always preferred the Seaver winning a game 2-1 or losing too many 2-1. The good strategic games where the squeeze bunt meant something, the extra stolen base meant something. I don't necessarily want to see a 15-9 baseball game.
No, every once in a while it's fine, but you want to 3-2 game, good pitching, good defense. That's just what makes baseball what it is.
Exactly. Pete looks like he wants to say.
What do you guys think? And I'll just go to each one of you. Where do you think, like in the next 5 years, do you see the game changing at all, or the new rules set, and we're going to live this out and see what it is? What do you think? Because everybody's tinkering with the game with the short attention span. Golf is doing it, and I don't know. I think football has a clock too. But what do you think about the game? Sports?
He thinks football has a clock. You really like your golf, right, Pete?
What's that?
I said you really pay attention to golf mostly, right?
Yeah, I don't have TV.
You know what the clock in golf is? The clock in golf is, it's time to have a drink.
Yeah.
Well, they now are like, they play music out there. They're trying to attract the younger players. And what I'm wondering is, like, baseball for the younger people is a long game, and golf is trying to shorten the game to appeal to the young viewers, young audience.
Well, that's what baseball is doing. Yeah.
I mean, they're doing a little bit of that. Do you think that will continue as the trend towards short attention span?
Oh yeah, they're never going back. The clock is here to stay. The pitch clock's here to stay. All those rules, because it's like, a lot of things. Once it's ingrained,
I agree. I agree. They're not going back. I don't know if your question was, are they going to continue to tinker with it? I hope not.
Yeah.
I don't know what else they could do, and I don't want to see the game get ruined. But I agree with Larry. They're not going back on these things. All of a sudden, the bases aren't going to shrink, and they're not going to do away with the pitch clock. I think that's here to stay, and that's fine. And we get used to it, and you don't think about it that much until you get to that 10th inning, and I see that guy on second base. Other than that, you just play the game, But I hope they don't ruin it.
Yeah, I always loved the extra inning games that went like 20 innings, 18 innings, and went into the
He
middle of the
liked he
night.
liked reading about them the next day.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it
Sitting in
was.
the stands, and
They're
then
like, that went for 4
Yeah.
hours and 12 minutes.
Yeah, and I understand it. It's like I'm a big hockey fan too, and like tonight the Rangers are going to be playing Game 5 at the Garden, and the game I think I didn't look, but I think it's going to start at about 8 o'clock. I'm up at 4 or 5 o'clock every morning.
yeah,
I'm tired. I'm lucky I can make it through the second period, and I'm fighting sleep to see the whole game. And do you remember, Larry? You remember this when we were kids, and especially when the playoffs were on. Okay, the teachers
During the
sometimes,
day.
and there were day games. The teachers
Yeah.
would allow the TV to
Yeah.
be wheeled out on the cart from the, what was it, the AV
Yeah,
room?
I watched the Dodgers and the Twins, I guess, that one year. Yeah, it's on a stool on a black and white
Yeah.
TV at 1:30 in the afternoon. Along that
Yeah.
line, they want to get, like Pete said, they want to get younger people interested.
That's right.
So they shortened the game. What they needed to do was quit having playoff games starting at 8:30.
My
at
point
night.
exactly. Yeah.
You know why? And maybe they've moved them back to 8:05 or whatever. But
by the time all the pregame stuff goes, they're starting the game at 8:40, 8:45 p.m.
right.
Who's
Because
staying up to watch?
you gotta take California into consideration. They still part of the union.
Yeah, I think so.
Right now they are, but
Well-
they're looking like they're going to be a separate country.
We could go a lot of places.
Everything's fine. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah, but yeah, I hope I'm like you. I hope they don't mess with it anymore. I don't know what else they could do. They've already ruined these some of these uniforms teams are wearing. These
Oh man,
city whatever
advertising on the sleeves.
Yeah, we got. The Braves have Quikrete. I don't know how much they're paying for that, but it's gonna be a lot of money.
Jeez.
You're seeing Quikrete every night. But the
Yeah.
thing we're talking about, one thing's going to change is either next year or the year after that. Because I talked to some friends of mine in Chicago who don't get the Cub games now. We're going to end up paying $9, $10, $11, $12 a month in the next couple of years to watch the Braves, and it's not
The local
Braves.
games. Yeah.
If you want to watch your local team, you're going to be paying for it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm used to it because I've lived here for a while, and when MLB Network became available, I paid for that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
that's good.
The
The extra innings one where you can get every game home and away.
Oh, yeah.
I had that one year, and people thought I had passed on or something. Nobody ever saw me. I was watching baseball all day.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I usually only watch the Met games, but sometimes I'll watch something else because I'm a baseball junkie. And if I feel like watching baseball and the Mets aren't on or they got rained out, I'll put something else on.
Yeah. You want to watch Mike Trout or, whoever it might be. Yeah.
Right. Shohei Ohtani, or, you want to watch baseball, but I'll watch all 4 of the major sports. If they're on, I'm watching.
Right.
Well, as the umpire of this broadcast, time is always going to catch us. So I want our viewers to share this with their baseball fans, because we're going to be on a regular time, on a regular schedule. So you guys can engage, ask questions, and bring your best memories and throw it at 2 baseball guys.
Yeah, and Jim, we're going to be talking about 50s, 60s, and 70s baseball a lot more. Anybody can go now and get on the radio and listen to what's going on with the Braves, what's going to blah blah blah, and that'll come up too. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax and Mickey Mantle and DiMaggio and Dizzy Dean, all those guys. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Join us in the conversation.
Yeah. We love people that will ask us those questions. And so we got somebody knocking at the door. So Jim, tell our viewers how they can get a hold of you.
All right. So you see it up there on the screen. It's 404-309-6093 or jim@ridleyllc.com. Very easy. That is my cell phone, and you can reach me anytime.
Awesome. And so as pest control comes in, we are live. So
Larry's the doorman now, huh?
Yeah, he's now.
I qualify as a pest, he said.
So, and because we have two people on, we can take a break and Larry can entertain our guests here for a second. So, Larry, even though we misspelled entertainment,
Entertainmentor.
yes,
That's me.
Larry is our entertainmentor. And Larry, tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, have you ever been to the Waffle House in Ackworth?
I have.
1 a.m., 2 a.m. I should be rolling in. Oh, but my number is right there on the screen. Shoot me a text. If you want to talk baseball, give me a call. Is that a bad move?
No, that's really good.
404-993-7431. Or if you need, a ride somewhere to the airport or whatever, give me a call.
Either way. No, and I want to tell our viewers, because not everybody has seen Larry yet. So entertainment is a big part of our senior community. And so Larry has his debut as a comedian / singer / entertainer is starting. So if you want entertainment for your senior center, then take down this number, 404-993-7431. Or you can do one other thing, because we always have to pay for this. These guys aren't cheap. When we book them, they're under contract.
So what you mean by cheap?
Yeah. So you can go to podcasterpetecane.com. Call me if you want either services because these guys don't make money off the baseball guys. They simply,
we're not.
Well, not yet. Not
now
yet.
He tells us.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be looking for some sponsors that will foot the bill. But for right now, go to podcasterpetecane.com. You can go onto Spotify, and eventually you're going to see the baseball guys on the big time. So thank you so much here. Before we go, you always have to have commercial breaks. So I want to let our people know that the first.
Hey, Pete.
Yes.
You're supposed to do the commercial in the middle, not at the end.
I know.
Yeah, they're tuning out now. Don't leave yet.
You guys talking baseball. I couldn't figure out a way to wedge in the commercial. We weren't under certain deadlines. So, but maybe we'll get better in the end.
So what do you got, Pete?
So the first collaboration book project. So you're saying to us, what does that mean? Well, you have to be a podcast guest to get in the book. So your chapter, your company, if you've been a guest on our podcast, you're in our community, you're a safe person to do business with. So you'll be able to get a chapter in the book or a mention in the book. And everybody that wants to really get their story out there, they can join High Performance Podcast Academy, which we create content, podcasting, and entertainment content for our viewers. So just get a hold of me if you want to know more about that.
This guy knows everybody. Get in touch with Pete.
Yes, we try. Jim is actually the commercial connector. So I ride on his tail.
I don't know nearly the amount of people that you do. So,
well, I know a couple more people in this building, but that's because I've lived here for 18 months. So, all right. So we want to, any closing, Larry, your closing comments, what would you want our viewers to take home from your time on the podcast? And then we'll go
I hope you're enjoying this and would be a regular visitor to the baseball guys. We're gonna have a great time, right, Jim?
Yeah, and I'd second that. And I think if we have and Pete, I don't know, you tell me, have the ability for people to chime in and join and ask questions and stuff, that would be fun as well. Because I don't. There's a lot I don't know about baseball that I love to hear the old stories, like some of the stories Larry was telling before we went on the air. Those are really cool stories.
Yeah, particularly if you're interested in the Yankees from the mid to late 70s.
Yeah,
I was living that like every day.
Yeah.
Well, we do, and we actually, if you're on Facebook watching this, you can go in the comment section and ask a question. If it's live, we see it, and we'll put your name and your question up for the guys to answer it. If you're on YouTube, the same thing. In the comment section, when it's live, you're going to see this regularly. So you're going to be able to put it in, lock it into your TV station, kind of, sort of, and you're going to be able to ask questions. So if you have things that you want to ask them, certainly we're going to be able to bring your question to our audience and at least give people a sense of some answers to stuff, because both these guys have a lot more experience in baseball than me.
And if we don't know, we'll make it up. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to add
And-
to, the Royals, Kansas City Royals from 81 to 85 too. If you're a fan of that era,
Mhm.
that team, yeah, well, I got a lot of great memories.
And I would say, if anybody's curious, look up or Google Dick Howser, and you'll get a lot of information on Larry's brother and the career that he had in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I think he would be particularly proud of the fact that they've named the outstanding collegiate baseball player for the year, that they named that the Dick Howser Award, because he was he was big on education and college, and unfortunately that didn't off on me too much, but yeah.
But hey, we always have brothers that do different things, and so, but it's a family. We're talking about a family affair. So we want to thank our baseball guys for bringing you our inaugural. No, and that's not
Inaugural.
You know what I'm trying to say. So, hey, you don't know
the first one.
Yeah. And we're going to entertainment her with, we're going to spell that one right the next time too. So thank you all for being with us. Share this with your friends that are baseball fans. Thank you so much.